What's up, guys? No, this isn't a hot dog video. I can't eat hot dogs every day or I'll be dead by Halloween. So today is I'm gonna do a little college football roundup from this past week. What I saw, with the last game last night. What I saw from week one. Here's my top four: Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and then with Oklahoma and LSU on the side there. That's what I got right now. Clemson handled their business. Really didn't get tested. Trevor Lawrence really didn't look all that sharp, but the intensity wasn't there. I was at the game, of course, and after they went up 21-0, I think the crowd, the team, the atmosphere, the air just went out of it. It was Thursday night. Georgia Tech had no chance to compete with Clemson, so it was going through the motions from that point forward. Clemson gets a test this weekend against Texas A&M. We'll see. That'll probably be their only major test, and we'll see how they react to that. The only question, I guess, is the new defensive players that's taking over for the guys who went to NFL. We'll see how well they pressure Kelly Mond and what happens. Clemson's by far unanimous number one. Bama, number two. Didn't look all that great in the first quarter. Struggled against Duke a little bit. Tua was off a little bit, but once he and Jerry Jeudy got going, they were unstoppable. Jerry Jeudy's by far the best wide receiver in the country. He just makes things happen. So Alabama's number two. They'll get tests as they go throughout the season. Auburn looked really good this weekend, beating the best team in the Pac-12 in Oregon. LSU has a test this weekend against Texas. We'll see how good they are. And then, of course, you got Texas A&M, and then the conference championship game likely with Georgia. So Alabama will get some tests along the way. Right now, there's a solid number two. Number three for me is Georgia. Both sides of the football are solid. Jake Fromm does what he does. He doesn't have to win the games. They got a good defense and good running game. Got the best kicker in college football, in my opinion, in Rodrigo Blankenship, and they're solid. They handled Vanderbilt from the beginning to the end, which that's not all that impressive, but they play Notre Dame in 2 weeks. We'll see how they measure up. And number four, a lot of people's got Oklahoma in this top five. I do not. Jalen Hurts looked really good, but I think athletes look really good against bad teams. Houston's defense is like 119th or something like that last year, and they didn't get any better. He did play really well, but I got Ohio State in there. They got Justin Fields from Georgia. They always got playmakers. They always got defense, and I think really the only test they face, going forward is Michigan, and I just don't trust Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, so Ohio State stays right there. Getting back to Oklahoma, a lot of hoopla was made about Jalen Hurts and what he is. He only really threw one pass down the field. He threw short passes, let his skill position guys do work. If it broke down, he ran. Of course, he's got as much speed as anybody on the field, and he's big and strong. He's a hell of an athlete. But, when you're playing teams that have two defensive ends that can put pressure on you and linebackers who can keep contained, it won't be as easy for him to run up and down the field. And we'll see that, versus Texas and versus some of the other teams they play as they progress in the season. LSU made the top six list, I guess the honorable mention list. Like I said, they play Texas this week. We'll see where they're at. They think they got a passing game now. They're going to have to keep up with what Texas is doing. Texas is good offensively as well. So that's a big game for both of those teams in both of those conferences. A win by Texas puts Texas and Oklahoma in that conversation for the playoff. A win by LSU puts them up there with Alabama and Auburn. And then you got Texas A&M, depending on what they do. You could have four teams in the SEC West that could just talk about maybe making the final along with Georgia in the East. So overall, it was an interesting weekend. Florida State loses again. I don't think Willie Taggart's got much time in Florida State. SEC looked really bad. The bottom half of the SEC with South Carolina getting beat by North Carolina, Tennessee getting beat by Middle Tennessee State, Missouri getting beat by Wyoming, and then Ole Miss losing. I think Ole Miss coach is the first to go. They're in disarray. The whole state, Mississippi and Mississippi State's both bad. So I think Mississippi will be the first one to get rid of. I think his name's Matt Luke. You can't be losing these games, first of the week. Muschamp. We'll see what happens in Columbia. Quarterback Jake Bentley, senior quarterback, supposedly broke his foot somewhere, either in the game, between the game, or kicking the locker on the way out. One of the two's got a broken foot. South Carolina puts the freshman quarterback Ryan Helinsky in, much heralded. Brother played at Washington State. We all know that, and they got Alabama in 2 weeks. So we'll see how all that pans out. For the most part, first week is hard to tell. Going through the motions, it's a vanilla playbook for a lot of teams. You score 28 like Georgia and Ohio State did, and you kind of put the Jets on. So we'll see. But right now, Clemson's still by far the best. If they stumble this weekend, I still think they can run the table, win the ACC, and get in the playoff. Syracuse may give them some trouble. One of the North Carolina teams may be a test. And then, South Carolina at the end of the year, but from what I've seen at South Carolina this weekend, that won't be a problem. Alabama, like I said, they got 3 or 4 landmines on the schedule coming up. At the end of their season, Auburn's got a freshman quarterback who will be, have a lot of experience by the time they play in November. Texas A&M could give them some trouble, and then LSU. LSU beats Texas this weekend. We could be talking about LSU in the top 5, definitely. And then Georgia, they'll run through the East. The East is weak. Florida's not good. Kentucky's not good. South Carolina's not good. Obviously, Tennessee and Missouri. The whole nine's not good. Georgia wins the East by far. Just can't stumble on the way. And then Ohio State. It all comes down to the Michigan game. 2 teams I don't think will be in the top 10 that are in the AP top 10 right now are Florida. They're in total disarray. They did beat Miami. If Miami had any semblance of a quarterback, if they had the Rozier kid from a year ago, I think they beat Florida. Florida's just a comedy of errors for an elite football team. And I use elite loosely because a lot of people seem to think Florida's still up there. They're not. Florida loses 3 games this year, I think 2 to 3 games. And Georgia probably mud them up pretty good. And Notre Dame, from what I seen last night, Ian Book's an athletic quarterback. He made things happen with his feet, but they're not going to be able to. Georgia should be able to run all over them and then contain him with their front 7 in 2 weeks. And Notre Dame takes their first loss there, and they got a couple of tough ones on down the schedule. So right now, Clemson, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and they got Oklahoma and LSU hanging on the side. Right now, that's my top 4. We'll see how they go after this week.